What are the Orlando Magic's needs and how the draft could fill them? Some prospects to know, and what are the Magic looking for in the draft anyway? On today's episode of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is May 30th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, how the Orlando Magic can address their needs in the draft. What needs should they be addressing in the draft? And what are the Magic actually looking for in the draft if they're going to keep this pick at all? We assume they are at this point. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. Obviously, the Orlando Magic have a lot of needs, and I think we're going to do this exercise a few times. We'll do it with free agents and trade possibilities, but the first thing that we have on our table, the first thing that we have on our plate is the draft. And obviously, some of the Orlando the Magic are drafting 18th. Obviously, the Orlando Magic's big needs aren't going to be solved with the 18th pick in the draft, especially in a draft that is widely considered pretty weak. There are some interesting players. I've had some people say the Magic shouldn't give up on the draft. The Magic should be all in on this draft and should be looking to get a high-value prospect here. And I'm not going to disagree with that, but I'll say this. Those of you looking for a Jaime Jaquez, there isn't a Jaime Jaquez. There isn't a Giannis Antetokounmpo. There probably isn't a Rudy Gobert in this draft. This draft class, it's not, I've said that there are middle-heavy drafts. This is not that. This is not a strong draft group. And look, there will be solid players. Every draft class has a good player somewhere. And it is on the Magic to make sure that they get a good player. If they're going to use this pick, they need to use it on someone that's going to be valuable. And so we are at a stage now where the Magic's draft strategy and draft proposition, it's a little bit different, undoubtedly. Right now, the Magic should be thinking, okay, how do we get players that are going to contribute and make us better? How do we get players who are going to help us achieve our goal of getting out of the first round, of being a top 4 seed? And so I think the Magic are not necessarily looking for the highest upside player. They're looking for players that, yes, all players will get better. It's, you're 21 years old at most. You're going to get better playing in this league. You're not getting a finished product, but the Magic do want someone who has played a little bit. And so as we look at the needs and the kind of needs the Magic are looking for, we got to ask ourselves, is that available in the draft? We'll go kind of down the list here of what the Magic's biggest needs are and ask ourselves whether the Magic can address this in the draft. And let's start with the one that the Magic can probably fill the most in this draft. And to me, that is kind of a three-point shooter, a three-point marksman. The Magic obviously have Jet Howard kind of waiting in the wings, so maybe this isn't the place to fill it. But the Magic obviously should be putting a premium on shooters. They should be putting a premium on guys who can make shots, and wherever they can find it, the better. And so if the Magic are looking to address an immediate need in this draft, they should be looking for guys who can frankly put the ball in the basket. And unfortunately, this is just not a draft heavy on shooters. Yes, there's Dalton Connect. He's going to be long gone by the time the Magic pick. There is Jared McCain, who we'll get to in a minute. But there aren't really any pure shooters available in this draft. Not where the Magic are drafting. And again, shooters are so valuable. Those players will get bumped up. There's people that think Bub Carrington can be a solid shooter. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well in college. Just 32.2% from deep, but a lot of that had to do with self-creation at Pitt. Keep an eye on Carlton Carrington, on Bub Carrington. The guy, though, that I want to highlight is Miami guard Keshawn George, excuse me. Keshawn George doesn't have a crazy stat profile. 7.6 points per game. One of the youngest players in this draft class. So he is going to be a bit of a project. But he shot 40.8% from three on 4.2 attempts per game. His threes accounted for 68.4% of his field goal attempts. Shot 77.8% from the foul line. Suggests that, yes, he is a player who can translate as a shooter into the league and translate pretty quickly. I also like Keshawn George because he does have a high upside. He's got good size, 6'7" without shoes, 6'10" wingspan. He has skills that the Magic could use that could get him on the floor pretty quickly and then also make him a factor moving forward. So, to me, Keshawn George is one of the higher upside swings that I think the Magic could take in this draft. He's got good size for wing. Obviously, you still want to see what you're going to get from Jet Howard and Anthony Black. So maybe that guard spot's filled. Maybe that's why the Magic are probably so interested in Tristan da Silva. And look, Tristan da Silva, not a classic three-point shooter, but Tristan da Silva is still he's going to give you some forward depth. He's going to shoot the ball well. He shot 39.5% from three last year, 83.5% from the foul line. Not a classic kind of spot-up three-point shooter, but in a league that values playmaking, look, there's a reason why every mock draft, the first mock draft that I did, first group mock draft that I did, I've not done my own mock draft yet, but the first group mock draft that I did, Tristan da Silva just screams Magic player. I think Keshawn George screams a little bit Magic player, but I'm not sure the Magic want to wait on a freshman. If they draft Keshawn George, don't be surprised if he takes a Jet Howard route and spends the year in the G League and spends the year kind of getting his legs under him. Don't be surprised by that at all. Again, and honestly, don't be surprised with any rookie that gets to spend a lot of time in the G League. I think that's reality in the league now. I think that's just how the league's going to operate for a little bit. But Tristan da Silva says 16 points per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists per game, 49-3, 39-5, 83-5 splits. That he's a senior. He's someone that can contribute pretty quickly. And that's a big reason why he continues to be high on Magic draft boards. There's a lot of teams that want the upside play and want someone that want someone that's going to contribute, that they don't need someone that's going to contribute immediately. They want the upside play. They're willing to wait and development. If the Magic are drafting Tristan da Silva, it's because they believe he can play pretty quickly and can be a factor and contributor on the team. If they're drafting Keshawn George, it means they're going to be a little bit more patient. They're going to be willing to wait him out and see how he develops and give him time to develop. And again, that gets to the big question here is we're kind of going to go through some of the needs the Magic have. We're going to get to the guard. We're going to get to the guards later on. We're going to get to the bigs next. What are the Magic looking for? Where can they wait on a rookie and where do their needs need more immediate addressing? And when it comes to shooting, obviously shooting is shooting. They need shooting pretty badly. If they're gonna draft a shooter, that means they want them to contribute pretty quickly, I think. And again, Anthony Black looked like a pretty good shooter, a better shooter than we all anticipated. Eager to see how he's grown in the last month since the season ended. Certainly eager to see him play in Summer League. Jet Howard should get an opportunity to play. I don't know if I'm not saying give him minutes, but he should have every opportunity to play this year and show us what he learned in his kind of gap year in the G League. That's That's all part of this too. But we got to ask ourselves, especially as we get into some of the other big needs, like how much are the Magic willing to wait? How much are the Magic willing to say, this rookie is going to take some time? Because I've had people say about our next group, but what about Derek Lively? Well, you're right. There are rookies that can contribute pretty quickly, especially at the center spot. Why I think that is not necessarily the direction the Magic want to go, but one they might have to. We'll talk about the bigs and how the Magic can find a rim protector in this draft and whether that rim protector is going to be ready to do what the Magic need. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA. We are almost to the NBA Finals. Boston Celtics are in. The Dallas Mavericks and Minnesota Timberwolves playing Game 5 with a ticket to the NBA Finals on the line once again for the Dallas Mavericks. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. Whether you're looking to get in on NBA action or NHL action, the playoffs are even hotter thanks to FanDuel. And if you're looking ahead to tomorrow's game, Minnesota currently 4.5-point favorites to force a Game 6 and send the series back to Dallas. It's pretty good there. You can even get player props like Anthony Edwards to score more than 45 points. That's at plus 2,700. That's definitely interesting as well. You can get all that at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. If you're like me, you work from home, you like the background noise of sports coverage and sports talk behind you, but you don't like the yelling. I know I don't like the yelling. It stresses me out. It actually distracts me. What I actually want and what I endeavor to do here is to give you the kind of coverage that only the experts get. You want the local coverage because those people know their team best. So if you want the local coverage of the biggest sports stories in the country, check out Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. So I've had some people pitch this to me and say, look at Dallas. Derek Lively, one of the most impactful rookies in the playoffs, has stepped up. The Dallas Mavericks are a different team with him, especially defensively. Really, if you look at it, there are just so many examples of rim protecting bigs who just immediately get it and who just immediately make an impact as a defensive force and can play at a high level. And look, I like Derek Lively in the draft process. I thought the Magic needed other things. I was not super keen on drafting a rookie center. Could the Magic be better off with him? I don't know, but I will agree to this. Certainly, I think Derek Lively's development is different in Orlando because Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are such downhill forces, whereas Paolo isn't quite the same as a playmaker, and the Magic don't have a point guard. So success as a rookie does depend on situation and how you fit with the team and how your role is defined. Like Derek Lively's role is very, very narrowly defined and narrowly tailored, which is good for him. And that's, I think that is a key to rookie success. But undoubtedly, we're sitting here in the offseason looking at what the Magic need, and they need a rim protecting big. That is something that I know I have highlighted over the last several years, that the Magic need a rim protecting big. They need someone that can play above the rim on lobs rolling to the basket, as well as defending and blocking shots. And the big question I think we've all had is whether Wendell Carter fits that bill and whether that's fair or not to Wendell Carter. I think the big question that the Magic should have, and the big question the Magic should be asking as they develop their team, is whether they can win with a center like Wendell Carter. And maybe the jury's still out on that. Maybe some people have already decided. Maybe that's not an issue that the Magic need to deal with immediately. But there is proof of concept that the Magic can be a strong team with a more traditional rim protecting center. And that obviously happened in November when Carter was out and Goga Bitadze stepped in the starting lineup. We are not expecting the Magic to be able to re-sign Goga Bitadze. I think Bitadze should be looking for a more consistent backup role. He should be looking to get a payday. He should earn a payday after the way he played for Orlando. Someone out there is going to give him an opportunity, and he should pursue that. The Magic don't have opportunity for him. So the Magic should be in the market to add a third center, whether that's through the draft, whether that's through free agency. The Magic should be looking to add an emergency center, essentially. And if you're looking at this draft, there are two pretty solid options when it comes to rim protecting bigs. The first one is Indiana's Kel'el Ware. Ware averaged 15.9 points and 9.9 rebounds per game for the Hoosiers last year, adding in 1.9 blocks per game. He did shoot 42.5% on threes, which is encouraging, but don't get your hopes up. I don't think he's a floor spacer quite yet. That part of his game is going to need some time to develop. But this is a big dude, 6'11" with a 7'4.5" wingspan, 32.5-inch standing reach, 36-inch max vertical leap. This is a big dude who can play above the rim. That's going to finish lobs. It's going to finish around the basket. Has decent mobility. Can step out and hit jumpers. Or at least is comfortable enough doing that. There is stuff to like about Kel'el Ware. The concern with him and the reason why he's being drafted at 19th is there are motor concerns. He kind of eats up stats, but he will disappear for large stretches. It's always a concern that, you're kind of chasing blocks and not defending solidly. Indiana obviously didn't have maybe the season that they wanted to last year. And he's a little bit older. He transferred from Oregon. If the Magic draft Kel'el Ware, if you're looking for the center who is most likely to be this season's Derek Lively, it's Kel'el Ware. There's the other option is Yves Missy from Baylor, much rawer, really athletic big, but doesn't have a lot of offensive game. I would draft Ware over Missy. Missy will foul a lot, not be super disciplined, but I think that's just a general concern with rookies. If you believe in his upside, you believe in his upside. Ware's a little bit more established. You know who he is. You kind of know what he's going to give you. And you hope, the big thing you have to figure out is, okay, are these motor issues that are coming up in the scouting reports, is that something you could brush away? Is there a reason for that? Is that a problem that Ware will have and will follow Ware to the NBA? This is the thing, though. Is this the need the Magic need to fill in the draft? And this is the point I kept making throughout all of last year. People kind of banged me on it a little bit, but Wendell Carter has never played more than 67 games in any season of his career. You have to plan on Wendell Carter missing at least 15 games. And you should really plan on him missing 20. Mo Wagner's not a starting center. Jamal Mosley's philosophy appears to be to always keep rotations intact. He will go to the third string guy to fill the starting lineup, whether that's Caleb Houston, whether that's Chuma Okeke at times, whether that was going to Gary Harris, that was going to Goga Bitadze. If you're drafting a center at 18, then you better have confidence that that player can start for a quarter of the season. And that is ultimately why I don't think the Magic are going to go with one of these two bigs. Because I don't know if, again, background information notwithstanding, I don't know if you can feel confident in Kel'el Ware as your starter for that extended period of time. At least, especially on this team. If this were a rebuilding team, if this were last year, I might be a little bit more confident in that. Derek Lively might have been the right pick for this Magic team, but it would have derailed your playoff hopes with the margins as small as they are. I still think that the move is to go for a veteran big here. I still think that the move is a veteran big to fill that need more than to go with a rookie. But if you believe in Kel'el Ware, again, people hate me for saying this. I'm going to defer to the Magic. I'm going to defer to Jeff Weltman, Anthony Parker, and their staff. They know, they've watched these guys a lot more than I have. I am behind on my draft prep. I'm not going to deny that. I am behind on my draft prep because I was watching the season. I didn't have the bandwidth to watch a ton of college basketball. I watched some Indiana because I watched Northwestern. Northwestern beat them. That usually raises my skepticism, even though Northwestern was a tournament team this year. But this is the thing. If the Magic believe that Kel'el Ware or Yves Missi can start, draft them. This is a good place to fill that need and to get someone that can really help this team. And even if they have to spend some time in the G League, that's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, though, I think a lot of us understand the biggest need for the Magic is at guard. Why there are a lot of options at guard, but why this may not be the place to fill it. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. So all I think anyone wants to talk about is the guard spot for the Orlando Magic and whether the Magic have enough at guard. Obviously, free agency, we're talking about going out and finding a starting point guard, a starting guard. We're looking for players who can step in and give this team some guard depth. And be an impact player on the ball, be a downhill attacker. We're looking for a table-setting point guard and a downhill attacker, someone that can kind of relieve some of that pressure off of Paolo and Franz, give them the ball in easier spots for them to score. That's the biggest need for the Orlando Magic. It's the biggest thing we learned from the playoffs that this team needs. Everything else could fall into place with the right guard. And so we've talked extensively about Anthony Simons. Go back and listen to that. We talked about Malik Monk. We're going to talk about Tyus Jones tomorrow. There is the Magic are in the market for a guard, and they have to find a guard. That is undoubtedly the truth. And I don't think the draft is the place to do it because, A, they got Anthony Black, they got Cole Anthony, they got Jet Howard. As Jeff Weltman likes to say, we want to make sure that there is a pathway for our rookies to play. And you could argue that, well, there wasn't one for Jet Howard. There was. They could have played Jet Howard, but I think they very clearly, consciously decided we want him to spend the year in the G League. We want him to play. We don't want him to, be up and down with his minutes. Let's just get this young kid as much playing time, developing in the way that we want him to develop as much as possible. Playing is better than sitting. That's ultimately what the Magic decided, how they ultimately decided to develop him. And hopefully that pays off for them this year. Well, we will find out in a couple months whether that worked out or not. But you want to give those guys a pathway to play. And so when you're drafting a point guard, you don't want that point guard to get in the way of Anthony Black. You got Cole Anthony now on a new extension. You don't want him to get in the way of Cole Anthony. Or not too much, or unless you're done with Cole Anthony, which I don't think we're there. But there are a lot of really good guard options. As far as downhill attackers, the best downhill attacker that I think a lot of Magic fans have noted is Jared McCain from Duke. Jared McCain is the dream pick, I think, for the Magic. He is an excellent three-point shooter. He averaged 14.3 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, shot 46.2% from floor and 41.4% from three on 5.8 attempts per game. He can play off the ball, can play a little bit on the ball, not the greatest distributor and passer, but he's kind of the style of point guard a lot of us envision the Magic trying to chase. That he is someone that can get his own shot, but is also very comfortable playing off the ball and playing as a floor spacer. He is not super athletic, but he will be able to finish. Like he is really crafty and creative with his finishes, and we'll see if that translates to the NBA. There's concern about his first step, but he is great at creating space and getting a shot off over taller defenders. That's that part of his game is really, really impressive. The other guy I want to put on your radar, he's starting to get a little bit of buzz among the draft people. I've heard people talk about him. just a fantastic scorer, Jalen Tyson from Cal. 6'7" guard, not a point guard, but I want to put him on your radar. 19.6 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game. Shot 36% from three this year, shot 40.2% from three last year, 79.6% free throw shooter. Jalen Tyson is someone to keep an eye on, as well as a guard who can kind of create his own shot and be that guy. He's not a point guard, but again, some playmaking ability there. The other point guard I want you to have an eye on, as far as just kind of a distributor, there are a few. There's obviously Bub Carrington. We talked a little bit about him. He's considered more of a shooter, more of an athlete, kind of a Marcus Smart type point guard. The other guy to keep an eye on is Devin Carter from Providence. Again, another ace defender, big guy, big athletic guy, not much of a shooter, not a great distributor, but rebounds really well for his position. You know, we talk about that a lot. But the guy I want you to keep an eye on today is Tyler Kolek from Marquette. Tyler Kolek averaged 15.3 points per game, 7.7 assists per game. His second straight year averaging more than 7 assists per game, shot 38.8% from three. He is a senior, so experienced player, someone who should be able to step in a little bit on the small side. That is the only issue. 6'1" without shoes, 6'2" wingspan. So he does not fit that part of the Magic's profile, but a great distributor, great playmaker for any team that drafts him. And again, a senior should be able to come in and help out pretty quickly. Again, I would say this. If I were the Magic, I would probably be looking at wings to add some wing depth. You know, you're trying to replace maybe Chuma Okeke, trying to replace Joe Ingles. Right now, I would say, like, looking at the bench lineup, you're hoping Anthony Black fills in for whatever minutes you're losing from Markelle Fultz. And I think you're hoping that Jet Howard helps fill in Gary Harris minutes and helps fill in Joe Ingles minutes. If you're kind of looking for that straight 1-to-1. So, you know, the Magic then are looking to replace Chuma Okeke. Caleb Houston's going to help with some of this, but, you know, maybe you're looking for someone to push Caleb Houston a little bit. But I think the Magic, when you're looking at this draft, are either looking to fill in Goga Bataze's minutes with a third center or looking for some wing depth. And again, Tristan Da Silva just feels like a pure Magic player, super high IQ, wing playmaker, oversized playmaker, decent shooter. He has a lot of the things the Magic like. And I think that's ultimately the direction the Magic are going to go. Now, you got to take what the draft gives you, and we'll see if the Magic end up keeping the pick. For now, we're going to assume they are. You got to take what the draft gives you. You know, you got to look at all the players available in the draft and what it's giving you and decide, okay, this works for us. I generally still believe that you pick best player available, whatever your board says, and you sort your board by need as well. But I still think you generally take best player available. Talent ultimately wins out. So I'm a big Keshawn George fan. I like Jalen Tyson. I think he'd be a really interesting pick as well. If you want a more development project, Tyler Smith from the G League Ignite, Bobby Klintman. There are a lot of options. And again, this draft is very wide open. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Magic ultimately go and what the Magic ultimately do. And of course, the G League is always an option. You can draft someone and park them in the G League for a year. That is not a bad option for this team, especially considering the Magic like veterans with their two-way contracts. You can play a Trevelin Queen a little bit. You know, Trev is still hanging around. Would not surprise me if the Magic upgrade him and give him a more regular contract and then fill their two-way spots with players, and including their second-round pick. You can always use their second-round pick on a two-way contract as well now. There are a lot of options like that, and the Magic are going to have to figure out what they need. And again, because of where they're at, yes, draft well. You have to draft well. That supplements your roster, that helps you out. But you don't need a rookie. You know, you're also looking for rookies that are going to contribute. You're ready to win. So you need to help. You need guys that are going to help you win. If there's an overwhelming talent that you have to have, I'm not against it. They obviously like Jet Howard more than they like Cam Whitmore. But if there's an overwhelming talent that you have to have, go for it. If not, find someone that fits a need. Find someone that's going to help you pretty quickly. And I think there are some of those options here in this draft. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all phone-based podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And also be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub. I am doing player evaluations right now on the Orlando Magic Hub, going through each player. Posted Jonathan Isaac on Wednesday. You can check that out at Orlando Magic Hub, patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. Like I said on tomorrow's episode of Locked on Magic, we are going to do the case for or against signing Tyus Jones, really popular player for Magic fans when it comes to free agency. We're going to go over why the Magic would sign him, how he does fit, and also some of the concerns that the Magic have as they examine whether to give him a big contract and bring him in. But I want to thank you for listening to today's episode of Locked on Magic. Be sure to make Locked on Sports Today your next listen. The 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube is now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app as well. Locked on Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked on Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's good, dude, for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked on Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked on Magic, this has been Phil Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked on Magic.